So today we're going to be discussing the new Lonely Island Productions film on Hulu, Palm Springs, starring Andy Samberg. This is PulpMythos. I'm Brian, joined today by Spencer. But before we get started, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't and click that bell. We would also appreciate it if you hit the thumbs up and left a comment sharing your thoughts on the review or the movie itself. And Spencer, I love this movie.
Yes. I saw, I don't even remember, we were talking about something else. And I would just glanced on IMDb and saw a trailer and I just saw Andy Samberg and I was like, holy shit. And I was like, and that's the girl from How I Met Your Mother. She's in like the last two seasons. She's the mother.
Yeah.
And I've seen her in lots of other things, but so.
Yeah, I had not
watched
heard
the
of this
trailer,
movie at all until you told me. Yeah.
and I saw the trailer and I was like, holy shit. Because the non-spoiler free part, you look at the trailer, it basically looks similar, and there's been a lot, so I'm not dogging them for this, Groundhog's Day, but also Russian Dolls did this, the Amy Poehler series that's very similar kind of setup where it's stuck in a time loop.
Yeah, I didn't see that. Yeah, I know you would tell me about it. Yeah, I really like this movie. I didn't know anything about it. You told me about it, and I was like, yeah, we'll check it out. We're big Lonely Island fans, so I like Andy Samberg, so I was like, all right. And as the credits were rolling, I was like, damn, that was good. That was a really really fun romantic comedy. The movie is called Palm Springs. It's on Hulu. If you have Hulu, it's rated R for sexual content, which it does have language, violence, and drug use. It's only an hour and 30 minutes, which I appreciated. And I think it fit what I would consider the three. I wrote this down. There are, to me, three important pieces to a romantic comedy. If you're going to write one, first and foremost, it has to be funny. It has to be funny. There has to be the comedy has to be good, and to me, this movie achieves that goal throughout, from beginning to end. Two, you must connect with both leads emotionally. You must care about both characters individually, who they are, what they're about. You have to care. I think this movie achieves that goal. And then the third and the most important part is you must feel that the two leads have to be together. And if they're not, it bothers you. You really have to be invested in the idea of the romance. So, you got to have the comedy, you got to have the characters, and you got to have the romance. This movie does all three, and it does it very, very well, in my opinion. Do you think there's anything other piece to that formula, or do you agree with my assessment?
Not only do I agree with that assessment, I think that we've done a lot of movie reviews recently, and the movies that we have gripes with are where you can't connect with the characters. So I think that applies across the board. If you can't relate to the characters or connect with the main characters, then to me the movie ends up being a wash. And you don't have to connect with them on a personal level. Like, I lived through a similar kind of trauma or a similar kind of thing. Oh, Jesus Christ.
McGruff, what do you think?
Someone walked by.
Oh.
But he's protecting me. Which, for whatever reason, the other dog doesn't give a shit what I'm doing or what anybody else is doing. But if she's got to protect everyone else, McGruff is, I'm by far the biggest person in the house. And
yeah. And what's crazy is you're,
protect me.
What are you, 6 something? You're super tall.
6'3", 245.
Yeah, and McGruff standing is damn near the same height. Like, McGruff is tall.
We could dance.
Exactly. But
we could slow dance. But I think that, all movies, you got to connect to the characters, and this, just from the jump, you're sympathetic with the characters, you connect with them. There's a couple twists where you're like, oh shit, but you still feel invested in them as characters. You're still invested in what their end is going to be.
Yeah. I think that's about all we're going to talk about in terms of spoiler free. So I think we got the point across that we enjoyed the movie. It's definitely worth your time. It's not long. If you have Hulu, you definitely should watch it. If you like Andy Samberg, you should watch it. Cristin Milioti, amazing in this movie. J.K.
Yeah,
Simmons is great in
I
this movie.
yes.
So spoiler free
Which
section
was
is
funny. The first time you see J.K. Simmons, I was like, I recognized the voice, and I was like, because you don't see him up close at first,
no.
so I just heard his voice, and I was like, wait a second. And then when you see his face, I started dying laughing.
So so yeah, we're about to get into the spoiler section of this. So if you haven't seen the movie, go check it out. The So the premise is it's Groundhog Day. That is the movie. It literally it's Groundhog Day. There's a few the rules are a little different, and we're gonna go into that. Uh, but it's very similar. So the beginning of the movie, you're first introduced to Niles, and basically the beginning of what his loop is every single day. Him waking up. They're at this like resort place. There's a wedding that's about to happen, and he wakes up with his girlfriend. I wrote her name, Misty, and he looks just sort of bored, but they decide they're gonna hook up. But he's not really into it. And then there's the she's running. Oh, I gotta get. She's looking for the ring, and so she leaves him to handle things himself, literally. And but she keeps saying
Dude, I was
shit.
dying.
Oh, dude, it's funny. She just keeps saying shit, and it's just ruining the whole vibe. And it's a funny scene, very adult, as far as I
Well,
mean, the
yeah,
movie
because
jumps right into the R rating.
right off the bat, um, you're not sure because from the trailer, he's stuck in this loop, and then they get stuck in this loop together, which to me is different than Groundhog's Day. He was trying to get um, Andy McDowell to basically fall in love with him in one day. So this was similar territory where it's they're learning all these things, they're doing all this, but from the jump, you see that he's stuck in this loop. Like, and it's funny because he's like sleeping with her, but he's bored by it, and she's just clearly not invested in their relationship at this point. So, and she's just like, "Well, you can finish yourself," and him just watching her and him jerking off while she's glancing back at him, yelling shit 100 times. Dude,
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
dying.
The We go through more of his day, and we we're introduced to the character Sarah. She's supposed to give this speech at the wedding. It's her sister who's getting married. She doesn't have a speech. She's freaking out. Niles comes in, which is Andy Samberg's character's name, and he sort of saves the day. And then it's one of the best scenes in the movie. It really is the dance sequence where he dances around everyone to get to her. And I mean, I thought it was funny as hell. It
Well, he
was a
like
bit,
pulls chairs out.
dude.
It's
It's just a great scene. I would love to see the behind the scenes on that. Him having to learn all that. It did spoil something for me though, which we'll get into a little later. But well, fuck it, we'll talk about it now. The big question later in the movie is, oh, have we ever hooked up? And he's like, oh, I don't really remember. That scene alone let me know, yeah, they did, because he had a whole routine worked out that clearly he's done a million times. And
well,
did
and
you
to me, he's
also piece
done
that together, or
well. Yeah, he's done a million things a million times. Like, it doesn't really go into how long he's been in that loop,
no?
but can you hear that? The dog chewing an ice cube. It's like
Yes.
sounds like it's like. I promise that's not me. I'm not a ventriloquist able to throw my voice while I'm chewing on stuff. But
Impressive.
but I felt like similar to like we said, Groundhog's Day. He he's able to learn this whole routine, do all this stuff, but it's all in order to like land this girl. So I think that before she gets stuck in the loop, he has been trying to get her and talk to her for a while.
Had you assumed that they had hooked up or hadn't?
Uh, I
You think
think
he
by
was
the time,
lying to her?
well, no, I think that they had, but I think that um, by the time he shows, that he's following her and he's like talking to her, I think that he not only had he done it before, I think that he had done it recently,
Yeah.
like
I,
prior to him trying to holler at her again. I think that this was because it showed later in the movie him hooking up with. He talked about it. He was like,
oh
"Yeah, I
yeah,
hook
there's
up
that.
with
Yeah.
these different people," but I think that she was his new focus because he was just like, "Damn, he liked her." But the longer that they were in the loop together, it wasn't just a like or he wanted to, have sex with her. Like he was falling for her.
Well, because when he takes her to the Rock, and they're about to hook up. Roy is what attacks them, and Roy is the X factor. He's the anomaly because my assumption is that Niles, that whole journey of okay, the helping her with the speech, the dance, taking her to show that his girlfriend is cheating on him, taking her to the Rock. I feel that has happened a million times. He does that, but Roy is unpredictable. You never know when Roy is coming because he's not part of um, the normal flow of events. He's also, trapped in the loop. So when Roy attacks, that's what led to her, following him into the cave and also joining the loop.
Yeah, I think that in the other loops for that, that didn't happen.
Yeah, yeah. The
Like
Roy,
he
because he can't
didn't.
predict Roy. He doesn't know when Roy's coming, or what's up with Roy. So when she does go in the cave and she's now part of the loop, we were introduced to the rules. These rules are not the same, completely the same. I don't think I'd have to. I hadn't seen Groundhog Day in a while, but there was no magic cave,
I've seen
or
it several times.
so the time cave obviously was unique to this film, so that wasn't in there. If you enter the cave, the loop starts over again. If you die, now that was in Groundhog Day. If you die, the loop starts back over. Now, the sleep one, if I recall, in Groundhog Day, it was a specific time of night. Am I wrong? Like if
No, I don't remember the time exactly, but it was a particular time because he tried to stay up a couple times,
mhm.
and he tried to stay up with Andy McDowell a couple times.
But
And
once you hit that time,
yep, once you hit the
it
certain
resets.
time, it's game over. But
We're
this
in
one,
this
it's
one
until you fall asleep
until
or
you
die.
fall asleep. Yes. So if you
Like
could stay awake for days, you would the loop wouldn't restart yet.
and I'm trying to remember where they went. Like he said, he had drove to. He was like high on like different drugs, and he drove all the way
Yes,
like
yes.
across the country.
So the
And then
Roy being that X factor. Roy was a guy that he at one of the particular loops he met Roy and decided to party with him, and they partied hard. And he came to the decision to he wanted to introduce Roy to this time loop. And Roy got very pissed off and blamed him and started every so often. Roy wakes up in a different city, and so sometimes he comes and he
was Santa Monica
tortures.
or something.
He Yeah, he tortures and he kills Niles.
Yeah, I think he. They said he was from Santa Monica because it's Southern California, but every once in a while he comes and finds him because he gets pissed off that he's stuck in the loop too.
Yeah. The Once Niles and Sarah, she realize what's happening. There's a period where she sort of just accepts it, and then we go through the series of just them having fun, partying, doing different fun things, crashing planes because they don't have to worry about dying, being permanent. Although I do like the idea of when she's going to crash the car the first time, him bracing so that he'll die quicker because he makes the point, if you're awake, pain is real. That's if you
Well, and
don't die, you're gonna remember.
him saying that the worst part of this part was when he was stuck in the ICU for weeks on end.
Yeah, yeah. If they keep you awake, yeah, you're and you don't die, you're going to feel the pain. So that was an interesting uh, angle, or new thing added as far as like the Groundhog Day um, type story. So that all leads to finally they're in a tent and they're hanging out one night, and then Sarah's just like, yeah, we should hook up, and so then they do, and then there's the dinosaurs. Now, I have my thoughts on the dinosaurs. What are yours? Because they appear again at the very end of the film.
I don't know. I'm not 100% because it was weird. I don't I don't know if the dinosaurs are part of whatever the time vortex that the cave was or what. I'm not 100% sure. I
That's
just
my
thought
guess. Yeah.
I just thought it was something silly and you know,
I didn't
like I
know if
said, I don't know that it was a time loop so much as basically like a wormhole, torn in time type thing. But
Yeah, I didn't know if it was some kind of weird nod to Land of the Lost, the movie, or you know what I mean, because they had a similar time
maybe, yeah.
angle, as far as a portal, through. I don't know. I because they were doing drugs, so you were like, oh, maybe they're just seeing something. But then the end of the movie, you see them again. You're like, no, they're there. So clearly, they're brought here from time or whatever. I don't know, but wasn't necessary, but sort of funny, I guess.
Well, I just thought the whole movie was very cleverly written. And that just to me was just a little kind of like when they talk about like Disney movies have all these little things and all these little uh, like hidden scenes and stuff. I think that this was their little hidden type scene.
After they hook up in the tent, um, you could tell they're falling for each other, and but then they're hit, or at least Sarah is hit with that realization, which they don't tell you till late in the film. Every morning she wakes up, she's not in her bed, and this is something that bothers her because she's changing as a person. She's growing. She's been in this loop for so long, but in that reality, she hooked up with her sister's fiance the night before the wedding, and which was it was an interesting little twist. I was like, oh shit, and so that bothers the hell out of her, and the idea of having to wake up in that bed every single morning forever, she just can't handle it anymore. It sort of she snaps basically.
Well, yeah, because she's not the same person anymore, and now she feels like a piece of shit,
Yes.
and she doesn't want to be that person anymore. She wants to deal with it and move past it. She's just like, damn.
Niles, and then shortly after this, uh, Niles reveals to her that he was lying, and that yes, he and her had hooked up several times before she got caught in the loop. So the combination of all of this, she just was like, "To hell with this shit! I've got to get us. I got to get out. I've got to figure out how the hell to get out of this." And then we go through a period in the film where I guess the conflict. So let's talk about this. Every single romantic comedy has one major sort of cliche in the writing. Every single one of them has the same thing. Towards the middle or the end of the second act, there has to be a conflict, and the conflict is usually one of two things. It's either A, one of the characters lied to the other character and it hurts their feelings, or two, there's a misunderstanding. There's some kind of misunderstanding uh, between the two characters, and it leads to a temporary breakup. Can you think of any romantic comedy that doesn't do that? Like that is such a
Yes,
constant in all of them. What?
one, and I did not. Well, but see, that's the thing when you're talking about the ability to where they get back together or they do this, the breakup with Vince Vaughn and Jennifer Aniston. Like the
Oh,
end of that movie, they don't get back together. They don't like it's.
mhm.
But to me, that's what makes it fail as a romantic comedy. That's
Yes.
it is tropey.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is, but to me, that's what. appeals to those kind of movies. 50 First Dates, like all these movies that Adam Sandler's in. That
They follow the formula.
yeah,
Yeah.
it. But it's a formula. There's certain formulas that you're just like, oh god. But in those kind of movies, it almost has to happen. Otherwise, to me, it doesn't work. It doesn't.
I think one thing that I only bring it up because it's just it that's what turns me a lot off to some romantic comedies, because if you the formula is so specific, if you don't do it well or clever, it can be annoying. And in this movie, I think they do it well, because I think him lying to her, it was a combination of not only him lying to her, but that revelation about her, what she did with her sister's fiance, which sort of ties into it. She it's not only that she's irritated with him, but it's not even really that. It's more so she's irritated with herself. And so I think
Yeah, and
it's the same formula, but they did it well in this.
well, yeah, and but just like with action movies, it's kind of
Yes.
you. It's a very whole movies have kind of a formula, but to me, it's how they navigate that formula that makes it either successful or, to me, where it's almost tropey, where they're following it too much to a T. Um, and it's that fine line where, to me, it either goes one direction or the other, to where it falls into it's just like every other movie in that category, or it does something a little clever where it makes it stand out. It makes it more of an original type of that formula, because they're all very similar, but it has to at some point deviate a little bit to make it stand out and make it original.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so while there's a period in the film where Niles can't locate her. Sarah is just gone. He checks her room, she's gone. He's confused by it. He's not really sure what's going on, and it tortures him. And I don't think the movie completely tells us, but it appears a year or more maybe passes as far as the loop. And we find out what she's been doing that whole time, but she's basically mastering quantum physics. Which she was first doing it, a little piece of me was just like, is this real? Thinking of it from a realistic point of view. But I was like, we don't know anything about her, and so we don't know what her background is in science or math. Uh, she may already have a background in that to some degree, and maybe she's just focusing on a very specific portion of science. Plus, we don't know how much time passed. It could have been 2 or 3 years, 1,000 days. We really don't know that how much time she spent invested in researching this. So it does work, as far as her being able to figure out how to escape. I think it does. Do you agree?
Yeah, I was muted again.
Oh,
I was like
that
talking.
happened
I was
yesterday.
talking like for I was talking for like 15, 20 seconds, and I was like, holy shit. And I was like, Brian's not responding. It's the same thing. But yeah, I do. Like, you look at some of the sequences where he's amazing at darts.
Yes.
She's amazing at pool. Like,
Yes.
and it doesn't show him being bad at darts, but it shows her being awful at pool. Um, you know, it, and he talks about millions of times. To me, it's one of those things where they've enjoyed doing it for so long, but she gets caught up in her guilt. That I just said like 4 times, and we've talked about that too. Uh,
I was listening back to, I think, yesterday's or one of the recent videos, and so I still do but I think I've gotten a little better, but now I say so a lot. So now I'm working on that. Got to stop. I'm gonna have a list right here on my computer. Don't say these words.
Sometimes that makes me go a little slower, which I try not to do because
Yeah,
I try to think.
it's tough because if you do any of the research, that's why I try to start off the videos talking fast. Those are what people prefer. And that's why a lot of people will edit out. You'll look at some videos and they'll edit the shit out of their video to where there's no gaps. Uh, but we do long form, so fuck it. All of our stuff's like an hour, so it doesn't,
Yeah, we're
whatever.
not trying to cut it down short, but
No, not with these.
I think that her character, that struggle isn't to me with when you look at romantic comedies, the struggle normally is between the two characters. Uh,
Mm.
I like that this didn't really do that. I think it made it look like it a little bit, but her struggle wasn't with him. Her struggle,
No, I agree.
Sarah and Niles's character struggle wasn't with each other. He was trying to win her back and convince her to stay, but that's what he was comfortable with. I think that to me, where this deviates from the normal rom com formula is that they are both struggling with themselves. Like he's gotten so comfortable. He's been there for shit, I don't know how many years. He's been there for forever. And what did she say? Happy millionth birthday, dickhead or
Yeah,
dipshit.
yeah,
like, like how many birthdays did they spend together? How many days did they spend, you know, getting great for her to learn quantum physics? Like how many like days did that take? They show that it's been a very, very long time to, kind of master these different skill sets that, their struggle is with themselves. His struggle with not wanting to leave, he's learned how to basically live in this life and he loves it. And hers is that she doesn't want to live with that guilt anymore. So
yeah.
I thought that was a interesting way to do it as opposed to, them having a fight or them, falling out of love or dealing with, a love triangle. It was them dealing with their own demons before they could get to be with each other.
And you're right. He had gotten so complacent in nothingness. And I agree with you about it was her guilt because even I think the revelation that he had hooked up with her a bunch, she wasn't mad at him because if you listen to what he said, he's like, all I have to do is save you from the speech. And so she, in
Yeah.
her mind, so she's thinking about where she was in her life. She hooked up with her sister's fiance the night before their wedding. And then during the wedding, if this guy just simply comes and helps her with a speech, bam, that's all it takes to win her over. She was a bit of a mess, and you're right. I think she hated herself. Um, and I like the stuff with the sister and their that relationship. They explore it throughout the movie. Uh, so yeah,
Well, yeah, because they talk about, her. I think it was the old lady who comes up and talks to him. This is the best wedding speech that I've ever heard. It's funny because he's gotten to the point where he mastered that speech. But they, I think that I don't know because they don't say whether or not that's the first time that they've hooked up or whether they've been hooking up.
yeah,
The
the
Sarah and the
fiance.
fiance,
Yeah,
you
we
don't
don't.
really know. And I thought it was kind of cool that she, goes up and whispers to her sister and then just walks away. Clearly we don't, at that point in the movie, we don't know what she's whispering to him, but that's what she told him. She basically confesses to her sister without confessing to everyone else, which I thought was kind of a tell to the character too, because they go out on all these dates, they do all this crazy shit. They steal a plane not really knowing how to fly it, and then they're like, oh shit, and then they crash it. Them choreographing a dance where they go into that bar and they do this whole dance and they're like, fuck you to everybody and leave. So for her to have to whisper that confession to me shows a character development that's something that she herself is struggling with, whereas she doesn't really care about a lot of other things. That's something that's eating her up.
Yeah, I think also it was interesting how at the end of the film before she comes to the conclusion that okay, if we I don't know some bullshit about blowing up the the portal and it'll launch you out of it, whatever. But before she does it, she has to make a decision because in her mind there's a chance that this could correct everything. Therefore, this is the permanent, timeline, and she chooses not to tell her sister the truth in that one. And I think there could be consequences down the line in terms of if her sister ever finds out the truth. It could ruin their relationship. But in her mind, for that day, for that moment, she didn't want to ruin the day. She didn't want to hurt her sister. And as a viewer, you could agree or disagree with that, and I don't think that's the point. Either or is fine. But I think it was interesting that in her mind she wanted to preserve that day for her sister. That seemed to be the goal, and she did give the warning to the guy, basically, don't fuck this up. Also, as a viewer, you're given, most of these movies she would have exposed him, I think. And you do get that satisfaction though, because you have when Andy Samberg, Niles exposes him earlier in one of the time loops, and he ends up stabbing him in the face with a fork. And then even when she confronts him in the
Dude, that was
shower,
great.
yeah, she confronts him in the shower and he starts crying. So as a viewer, you're given sort of the satisfaction of seeing him exposed, but in the timeline that matters, she decides not to reveal it. I don't know. Did you have any thoughts on
I
was that?
I thought that was. I think that I didn't agree,
Mhm.
but to me, at that point, shows that it wasn't really a relationship. Um, it shows that they maybe had a a one time thing where maybe they were both drunk at the rehearsal dinner, or because even when she wakes up, all those times, it's almost like it was a mistake. It wasn't
Mhm.
something that they had done a bunch of times. And she basically just gives them a pass and like, hey, don't fuck this up.
Yeah.
And it's, trying to, and it shows that the fiance, doing a bunch of drugs and partying and shit. It's, he's not a great guy, but she's kind of being like, hey, you're not a great guy, but don't fuck with my sister. Don't fuck this up. So I thought it was interesting. I don't necessarily agree uh, with that. However, I think that it shows her character development, that she's willing to let this kind of fuck up go because she was part of that fuck up. But it's, hey, don't let it happen again.
Mhm. Uh, Niles comes to his. He has two sort of epiphanies. The first one is when the last one is when he's at the bar and he realizes he does love Sarah. But before that, he goes to Roy's house, and Roy has come to peace at this point because of he got crushed by the car when Sarah ran him over, and he was stuck a lot, awake for several days and in agonizing pain. And he came to the conclusion that essentially he was happy with where he was. He loved his wife. He had two kids that he cared for. He had a nice home. He had a good situation, and he had sort of come to peace with the life that he was in. And he was basically telling Niles, you've got to find what it is that makes you feel alive. You're living in nothingness. You don't do shit. Your life is meaningless. You've got to find that meaning. You got to find the thing that you know you care about. And it had one of the greatest other lines in the movie is son watering dog shit. He's like, "Hey, watering that dog shit. That's weird."
Yeah, I thought,
I just couldn't stop laughing for that.
yeah, there were several scenes that just had me fucking rolling, and that was one of them.
It's just the way he says it. That's weird. His son's watering dog shit.
Yes, because he just sitting over there, he got complacent with the time loop also. Like he ended
Yeah.
up making peace with it. He's just, he found beauty in the fact that they were stuck. He was
Hmm.
just like, you know what? I'm going to make the best of this. I'm not aging. My kids are at this, spot. My wife's beautiful. I love my family. He's like, I'm not angry with you anymore. You're giving me infinite time to spend with my family. As opposed to looking at it as where he's stuck, he looked at it as he got a gift.
Yes. Yeah.
Which to me also showed Andy Samberg saw it the same way. He was like, I love this. I love being stuck here. I love getting to basically live this over and over and over. But he also said that, I love the fact that I get to be with you. And he was just like, him being stuck there with her, you saw that he was, instead of just being complacent, he was, adventuring, because he got good at darts, but she learned fucking quantum physics. Like
Yeah.
he didn't really learn anything other than like bar games while he was stuck in this infinite time loop. He was just getting drunk every day and just having fun. Whereas I think after meeting with JK, Roy, he was trying to, I guess, get more out of life, and he wanted it to be with her. So he was willing to sacrifice his comfort and him, basically getting to live the same day over and over. And he didn't know whether or not they were going to go into this, explosive thing at the end and die, but he didn't
Hmm.
care at that point, as long as it was, which was the, the tropey kind of rom-com thing, that he was willing to give up everything for her. But I think that he had lived 7 lifetimes, not only with himself, but with her. Like, he had lived multiple lifetimes with her, and that's what he felt he wanted to do. So if she was wanting to get out of this, he wanted to be able to wake up every day with her, as opposed to, wake up and then go see her. Like, he wanted to be with her for forever.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're right. He was pretty fine with the loop, but she wasn't, and he needed her. And I mean, he sums it up in the end. He says, "I'd rather die with you than be without you. I'd rather die with you than live this life without you." He's just like, which summed up his feelings towards it. And they go in there and they blow it up and do the whole thing. And then the ending of the movie, it's like, for a second you're like, "Oh, did they get out? Did they not get out?" And then it sort of reveals, yeah, it's a day later. It's the 10th, not the 9th.
Which was great. When the family's like, what the fuck are you doing in our
Yeah.
pool?
And she had called, because then you get sort of an end credit thing where she had called Roy and I guess told him how to do it. And I don't. It sort of left it. Did you think that, well, Roy basically has a choice whether or not to do it or not, or what's
I
he
think
gonna do?
so.
Yeah.
I think that it basically made it to where, obviously, he was stuck in this time loop for a fucking millennia before he ever even got Roy to get stuck in this time loop with him, and then before he decided to get, Sarah stuck in this time loop. Um, I think that he had been in it for a very long time, uh, and then, Roy had been stuck in with him for a very long time. But I think it was his choice to either get out of it, or, you know,
Yeah.
maybe he was complacent. Maybe he was happy living his whole life with his wife that
Because at
same
that
day.
point, it does. I think it explains, because when he encounters Niles at the wedding party, this is a Niles who's living a life, so he doesn't. It basically, I think it shows you that it's now almost two different universes, two different timelines. Because you could arguably say, what if Roy took Niles and took him to the cave and caught that Niles in a time loop? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, I was thinking about that. I was like, well, because now you've established, because when they get blown, the next day, they're on the 10th now. They're in a different sort of timeline now than I mean, when you get into all the time travel shit, it can get messy. Um, and I don't think this movie was trying to do that, but I mean, if you really wanted to start analyzing the different timelines and how that all could work, you could.
Well, I mean, shit, yeah. The fact that it was not just jokily done, she was learning legit quantum physics, like how time travel works, or
Would
the
you make
theory of time travel.
Would you make a sequel to something like this, or no? Just leave it.
I don't think so. I think they could, but just to me, that's not what that genre is good at.
I agree.
I don't. To me, multiple movies within a rom com, you lose the magic of the first one. Like you can't. I think the fact that they fell in love, the fact that they made it out, what are you going to do? Test their love for each other? I think that to me was, we talked about it before, the new Jurassic movies. The fact that you put Bryce Dallas Howard and Chris Pratt's character in a love situation towards the end of the first one, now you have to readdress that love in the second one. And to me, that was the failure part of the second Jurassic reboot, I guess, sequel or remake. I don't know what to call this, but I think that made it hard. The fact that, they fell apart or that they weren't together, that put a sour taste in my mouth. So if you were to do a sequel of something like this, what is the thing? Are they not together anymore? Do they have to try and get back together? Like, I don't, I think the way it ended was great. To do another one would do a disservice to not only this one, I don't think it would be good.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. You whenever you do something like this and you try and do any kind of sequel, you only have really two options. Option one is like you said, they're broken up and it's about them getting back together, or they're starting a family and it's about the struggles of that phase of your life. Those are usually when you look at like Meet the Fockers and stuff like that. That's usually your two options: either a breakup and then a reconciliation, or family life. And I think the movie is perfect for what it is. Good job, everybody involved. I think it's one of the best movies of its kind in the last several years, and um, I think people will be watching and talking about this movie for years. I really do.
Well, to me, you look at something like Wedding Crashers, there's not a whole lot of rated R rom coms. I mean, there are some. To me, those are the ones that are the ones that I enjoy. Like, I don't, as far as, you know, I like 50 First Dates because I like Adam Sandler. Like, but I don't like it as much as I like this or Bridesmaids or any of those that, push the envelope a little
The Wedding
further.
Singers is the
Yes.
golden standard for me.
Yes. Uh, to me, the rated R element is what makes a rom com to me more tolerable. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah,
but this is a different kind. Like, not only is it like we talked about, it wasn't the element of their love that was, on the fritz. It was a them each battling their own personal demons, and at the end coming together, being like, you know what, let's do this together, as opposed to, you know, they both had to figure out their own shit before they could travel together. And to me, that is a relationship thing that I think is kind of lost in a lot of romantic comedies. When you're looking for that partner in life, you want to be able to travel with that person for, a long time. But if you're on separate paths, or if you don't meet that person that is willing to go on that journey with you, um, I think that's that relationship's not going to work. So if you can meet somebody kind of going the same direction as you, or meet somebody who is willing to, you know, walk that path with you, is how, to me, a relationship works. And in this movie, they are both willing to they both deal with their own shit before they kind of come back together to travel, that next step. And to me, that is not not just a romantic comedy thing, a relationship, uh I don't know, success.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I can add anything to that. That's a great way to summarize uh, what the film accomplished. So, if you don't have anything else to say, I think we'll wrap this up.
uh Other than just, I like Andy Samberg, and to me this wasn't just a accomplishment, because after I watched this, it was like, watch Hot Rod. Like, watch another Andy Samberg funny movie. To me, this was showing him growing as an actor, which I liked. I liked that it not only showed that he was funny, but he was capable of more than just dick and fart jokes, or that deadpan kind of goofy humor. It's To me, it showed that he does have the ability to kind of go past that, and I liked it a lot.
Yeah, yeah, I really enjoyed the movie. So, thank y'all for listening. Perry Mason review tomorrow night, Sunday, if you're listening to this on Saturday. And more content on the way. Thanks again, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.